Fascinated by a couple of things you said. We finish up with so done. Just who is the ideal reader for the story, and when do you know that, or is that decided during the contract? When is that decided who the ideal reader is going to be?
The the book was pitched as a middle grade because I had always been told that my young adult was sweet YA, and I never quite understood the term because does that mean other books are not sweet? I don't know. That so I was, people would say to me, you really should write middle grade. Your voice is a little younger. So I did. And we pitched it as middle grade. And then I realized that middle grade was really for 8 to 9-year-olds. And I did not write a book for 8 and 9-year-olds. So I've been on a quest ever since because I'm always stuck in the middle where people don't know where to put me. My YA wasn't YA enough, and now my middle grade is not middle grade enough. So that's why I've been trying to understand what I write and have come to the terms that it's young adult, because the characters that I like to portray are between the ages of 13 and 15. And those readers tend to literally be stuck and forgotten in between traditional middle grade and traditional young adult. So even though I didn't start out saying, hey, I really want to write for this reader, I started out playing the game like everybody else does. Publishing tells me what the book is. I write it and they tell me this is the age group that this book is for. And I go, okay. Now I'm starting to realize it's not so okay because I am still in the middle of how they categorize a book. To me, my books are for these two books, So Done and Doughboy, are for 13, 14-year-olds. And it could be for a 12-year-old. But on my books, it says 8 to 12, I think. But the content in these books that I write, I think are a little much for an 8 or 9-year-old. Maybe an avid 10-year-old reader, but still, I really am writing for the middle schooler. I really am. And that's a new development because the publisher considers my books middle grade. They don't put upper in front of it. They just call it middle grade.
Does that ever lead to negative reactions from readers who are expecting that, Mila and Tay are going to find a chocolate factory, and instead, here's Dad who's on drugs?
Wow. When you put it like that, so far I've not had any challenges with it, but it's also because I network quite frequently with educators so that they are clear. And so I used to feel bad saying these books are not for 8 and 9-year-olds because I'm going directly against what the publisher says. They can look in the catalog and they say, hey, but this says here. And I just say, well, it's just because, 13-year-olds tend to get caught in the middle, and publishers have not yet come to terms with the fact that there needs to be 2 more categories created in order for us to truly capture all of the potential readers. I think they will catch up eventually. They have not so far, but I'm on a mission to make sure that it happens. So I actually, with Tracy Batiste, and I had just created this document. We crowdsourced it on Twitter where we just asked all these authors, like, if your characters are between 13 and 15, add them to our YYA column. If your characters are between 11 and 13, but it has to involve relatively, mature content, then, put it on our upper middle grade column, because we're trying to make sure that teachers know the difference and can properly hand sell, book sell, recommend the book to the right reader. So we're going to push it from the ground up.
Oh, this interview is going to be revolutionary. The longer it goes, people are going to look back and this is the moment when it became MG, YA, and PC for the Paula Chase category. That's where these upper middle grade books belong. So are you? I mean, you're kind of making up rules as you go a little bit then, because there's definitely some adult content in this, and yet I could feel, I don't know if it's just me because I have a sick mind, where there were some moments where I wanted profanity and I could feel the text almost straining. You used "which" a couple of times. I'm like, that's not the word you wanted there, but you're compromising, and I appreciate it. So, do you bump your head against whatever ceiling that would be, the no profanity, but we can get away with? How do you decide what you can get away with, and what would boost you up into past sweet YA, into, I guess, cruel YA or whatever they call that?
Right, right. You know, there's always sort of this teen curse, no curse thing. If it's a middle grade novel, which again, your reader is, if it's a traditional middle grade novel and your reader then is an 8 to 9-year-old, then I agree, there should be no cursing. However, my characters are 13. I think that as parents, we have to come to terms with the fact that our kids live this life outside of us when they are in school and when they are with their friends. I am always first true to my characters. There are always going to be characters in my book who just naturally cursing would not fit who they are and how they talk. But then there are going to be characters where absolutely it fits. And I don't worry about what anybody else thinks about it if I feel like it's authentic to that character. So, you know, what you find in So Done, I think, is there may be a curse word or two, and I think only the boys curse. I know Mila doesn't curse. I don't think that Tay does. But in Doughboys, there's cursing. The boys curse. And to be honest, based on what happens in Doughboys, if cursing is the worst thing they do, they're doing okay. And I think that's, you know, again, that's what I'm dealing with, the reality that these kids, you know, cursing is the mildest thing that they could do or could get themselves into. I've not had any pushback from my publisher. I've not had any pushback from teachers. Again, as long as I try to explain who the reader is, I think the teachers tend to be okay with it because it's very mild and it's, you know, I mean, I've never counted, but it's probably, you know, less than 8 times in the whole book or something. It's probably less than that.
I wore pearls just so I could clutch them each and every time.